So welcome to our first revision video for your mocks. It is on Judaism, and the content we're going to cover today is nature of the Almighty, the covenants, the synagogue, and the Tanakh.
So this is what a paper will look like. So it's split into two sections: belief and teachings and practices. Each section will have 1A, 1B, 1C and 1D style question, and they're out of 30 marks. Now if you can look carefully, you'll see that there is no spag mark for this paper. So this is what you're expected to do for the paper. So your A questions, like with the other two papers, they are worth 2 marks. You just spend a minute on those. You'll be asked to write about a sentence. Your teacher should have sent you the key terms. Your B questions, they are out of 5 marks. They are describe skill questions. So you need to describe maybe a belief, describe a teaching, describe a practice, or describe an event. The general rule of thumb is that you should write as a paragraph and give 3 points and refer to one source of wisdom and authority. Some questions might, however, ask for 2 features or beliefs or ideas. Your C questions, you will need to write 3 P paragraphs. You are not referring to humanism or Catholic Christianity in your C questions at all. Your P paragraphs should try and include a point, some evidence or an example, and these should be explained. That's what we're looking for in this question, explanation. Your D questions, looking for evaluation and analysis. We're looking for you to give reasons for and against a statement and come to those mini conclusions at the end of every paragraph. So what makes it a strong argument, what makes it a weak argument? You might say it's strong because it's contained within the Torah, so therefore it is considered by Orthodox Jews to be the Word of God. You are not allowed to refer to Christianity at all in this paper. So do not talk about Jesus, do not talk about the Golden Rule or any of Jesus' teachings. It is not allowed at all. As you can see there, if you only give one side of an argument, no matter how good it is in your D questions, you'll only be awarded 3 out of 15. Okay, so it's vital that you give reasons for and against and then reach a justified conclusion.
What I would like you to do today is to answer these 5 questions in full sentences. What I've done is I've given you a few hints, but I want you to spend about 5 or 6 minutes just very quickly answering these questions, and then you are going to self-assess your answers. Off you go. Make sure that you pause the video because it will ultimately just run on to the answers. So pause the video now and set a timer for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then you will self-assess your answers. So pause it now. So here are our answers. So what are the 4 natures of the Jewish Almighty? They are judge, lawgiver, creator, and one. What was the Tanakh? Tanakh is the Jewish Bible. It's their holy book. It is how God is revealed to the Jews. What are the 3 sections of the Tanakh? We have the Ketuvim, which contains Jewish writings, the Nevi'im, which contains books from the prophets, such as Elijah and Isaiah, and the Torah, which contains instructions and laws and the Genesis creation story and so on. What does covenant mean? Covenant means agreement. And what are the 2 main Jewish covenants? They are the covenant with Moses on Sinai and the covenant with Abraham. I'd like you to self-assess and green pen correct your answers now. So pause the screen and self-assess your answers, please. Off you go. Your next task, you are going to complete a mind map. Now, I have drawn the mind map out for you. So all you need to do is write down the information, so summarize, bullet point, key information on all of the areas listed in the mind map. Now, as you will know, you should be looking to make links between bits of information in the mind map too. But now you need to look at the mind map and you need to summarize the key information for each part. Off you go. Okay, so here is the mind map. I would like you to pause the video and summarize what you know about all these key bits from the spec. So God is a creator. That's one of the natures of the Almighty. So Orthodox Jews believe that the world was literally made in 6 days and God rested on the 7th, and this is why they have the Sabbath. Reformed Jews believe the creation story is not literally true. It tells us about God's nature as a creator and that he's omnipotent and eternal. God made Jews stewards of all he created. This means that Jews have a responsibility to look after the world. God made life in his image. Our life is sacred and belongs to him. As he created us, only he should decide when we die, and this is why Judaism rejects euthanasia and abortion. Now, as God created us, our life is paramount. It is the most important thing, and it is even more important than the commandments. And this means that Jews can break most of the commandments to save a life. So even though they reject the idea of abortion because of Imago Dei, they would say it's allowed if the mother's life is in danger. So I would like you to read through that information again, pause the video and green pen correct what you have written down about these spec points. Off you go. Pause it now. So another nature of the Almighty is the belief that God is one. Now this belief comes from the covenant with Abraham. Okay, this is where monotheism started, the belief in one God. Okay. So God promised Abraham that if the Jews believed in one God, he would give him as many descendants as stars in the sky. So that means a Jewish race. It also meant that God would give them a promised land. So remember, this agreement was that the Jews would believe in God alone, one God, and that would birth the Jewish race, and it would lead to a promised land. Also within the covenant we have the idea of circumcision and the ritual of Brit Milah, which is essentially a physical reminder of the covenant for Jewish men and takes place at 8 days old. The belief in one God and oneness as the nature of the Almighty also comes from the covenant with Moses. So Jews promise God to keep the commandments, and those contain the commandment, have no gods before me, which essentially means believe in one God. The oneness of God is also proclaimed daily in the Shema prayer, which says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." That's the Shema prayer. So I would like you to pause the video and I would like you to green pen correct your bullet points on the oneness of God. Off you go. Pause it now. Third nature of the Almighty is lawgiver. Now, it was at the covenant with Moses where Moses received the Torah and the 613 commandments, and these include the 10 commandments. The 10 commandments are universal laws like do not kill. Now, Orthodox Jews believe that they must keep all 613, as they believe God literally gave Moses all the commandments. However, Reformed Jews believe that God only gave Moses the 10 commandments and the others are a bit outdated. So laws about the temple, which they cannot keep, or laws about food, which are difficult to keep. They would say that we don't, or Jews don't need to keep those today. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to pause the video, and I would like you to make notes on, in green pen, self-assessing what you've written about the belief that God is a lawgiver. Off you go. So the final nature of the Almighty is judge. Jews believe that God judges them on their actions and as to how well they have kept the commandments. So for example, whether they have kept the Sabbath day holy, or whether they have murdered, or whether they have stolen. Now every year they have something called Rosh Hashanah, where they ask God for forgiveness of their sins. Jews believe that the final day of judgment will come on a Rosh Hashanah. So essentially, judgment means God is judging them on their actions, on whether they keep the commandments, and that will lead to where they go when they die. So again, pause the video and write down in green, bullet point, any bits of information you may have missed. Pause the video now, off you go. So for the next task, you're going to be shown some internal features of the synagogue. Now it's going to be in picture form. You will need to write down what the internal feature is. Then you'll be asked to say why it's important. So I want you to, first of all, pause the video and write down what you believe this internal feature to be. Off you go. Pause it now. Okay, self-assess, that is the Ner Tamid, the eternal light. Now I would like you to pause the video. So pause the video and say in a few sentences why the Ner Tamid is important. So pause the video now and write down why it is important. Off you go. Now I would like you to green pen self-assess your answer. So the Ner Tamid is important because it means God is present in the synagogue. Okay, so it symbolizes the presence of God within the synagogue. Pause the video and green pen correct if you haven't got that correct. So now I want you to look at this internal feature and I want you to write down its name. So pause the video and write down the name of the object displayed. Off you go. So now you need to self-assess. That is, of course, the bima. Like before, I now want you to pause the video and tell me why the bima is important. So pause the video and write down why the bima is important. So pause it now. So pause the video and self-assess your answer. So the bima is important because it's where the Torah is read from. It allows people to hear God's words which are contained in the Torah. Pause the video now and self-assess. So this is the final internal feature we're going to look at. So I want you to have a look at the image. And this is found again in the synagogue. And I want you to write down what it is. So pause the video and write down what this internal feature is. So that is, of course, the Torah scrolls, the 5 books of Moses. So pause the video and self-assess. So now you're looking at why the Torah scrolls are important. So pause the video and write a few sentences explaining why the Torah scrolls are important. Pause it now, off you go. So these are God's words. They're the 5 books of Moses and contain the covenants of Moses and Abraham and the creation stories. So they are very, very important. They are, of course, read from the Bimah, as you know, and they are kept in the Holy Ark. So I would like you to self-assess your answer and green pen correct. So pause the video now and do that. Next activity is a sorting task. So this could be the kind of thing you would get for a D question. Now, I want you to look at the 6 pieces of information, the 6 statements, and I want you to decide if they are agreeing or disagreeing with the statement, because that's the kind of thing that you need to do when you're answering a D question. So, pause the video now and note down which you think are for and which you think are against the statement, it is important for Jews to worship in a synagogue. Pause it now. So let's self-assess your answers. So what you can see on the screen here are the answers which agree with the statement. So the first one, synagogue worship allows Jews to form a minyan, which is a prayer which requires 10 Jews to take part in it. Now, it's worth noting that in Orthodox Judaism, those adults have to be male. However, in Reformed Judaism, to form a minyan, it can be men or women. The next one, the Amidah is often called the standing prayer. It gives thanks to God, and Jews will say this together in a synagogue every day. So they have the potential to go to the synagogue and say the Amidah every day. Okay, and this is a very important prayer because it gives thanks to God and it praises God. Okay, so this is one reason why it's important for Jews to worship in a synagogue. Next one, it's a place of community gatherings. And Jews are commanded to go there during festivals like Pesach, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah. It's a place where Jews can get together, where they can learn about God, and where they can meet other Jews. Okay, so they're all reasons why it is important to worship in a synagogue. I think you should pause the video now and in green pen take some notes on that, please. Pause the video now and take some notes because you will need this information for your first mock. Pause it now. So, here you have in red the reasons why actually it's not vital for a Jew to go to the synagogue to worship. So a prayer book or a siddur can be used at home to contact God and form a relationship with him. So Jews can say prayers at home. Okay, they can have private prayers, prayers for their own intentions, prayers which, form a relationship with God over the years. The Shema prayer, which we talked about earlier, which professes the oneness of the Almighty, is the central Jewish prayer. Jews will say this when they wake, so they say it every day at home. Now, on a practical basis, some people are just too ill to go to a synagogue, so they pray at home. So for those, it can't be that important to worship in a synagogue. God is omnipresent, so they can worship him everywhere. So again, pause the video now, and I would like you please to take notes on maybe reasons why it's not that vital for a Jew to go to the synagogue. Okay, because you will need this for your mock. Pause it now. Finally, we have a model paragraph. So I just want to show you what we are looking for in terms of the paragraphs you write for your D questions, your evaluation and analysis questions. So the question here, or the statement here, is judge is the most important nature of the Almighty. What I would like you to do is pause the video, and I would like you to just note down what is good about this paragraph. Okay, so note down what you think is good that it contains, okay, and what you can maybe learn from it. So think about the skills that it's showing, okay, thinking about the style of the writing. I want you to note down what this paragraph does, okay, and how it does it. So pause the video now and make notes on this. So here you can see that I have highlighted certain parts of this paragraph. So some Jews would disagree with the statement and say that lawgiver is the most important nature of the Almighty. So that's my point. So I'm disagreeing. Now, you will need to note that I have started with some Jews rather than I think. Okay, so that is a much more sophisticated way of writing. Then I've developed it by saying they believe this because he gave us clear laws, or gave clear laws to Moses, which should be followed by all Jews, such as do not kill. So I've got a development which includes source material. So do not kill and Moses are my sources of wisdom and authority there. And by following these laws, Jews can live an ethical life. So that's my development. So I've given a point, and then I've developed it, including a source of wisdom and authority. Now, what I've also done, and you can see it in green, is I've included a judgment. Okay, so I've included a judgment about the information I've given, but also one that answers the question. Okay, it's not just a randomly shoehorned judgment. It's one that actually relates to the question. And it says, this is a strong argument because Jews consider focusing on life after death to be more important than focusing on the afterlife, which the commandments do. The commandments offer laws all people can follow to live a good life, and if followed by all, would lead to a harmonious society. Okay, so as you can see there, I've answered the question within my judgment. Now you should really be looking to add these judgments across every paragraph, or you could do it at the end of every 2 paragraphs, but just make sure that you are incorporating them throughout your answer. Now, the last thing I want you to do is I would like you to write another paragraph. Now, remember, for a D question, you need to give reasons for both sides. So you would have to now include a paragraph about why judge is the most important nature of the Almighty. If you didn't do this, you would be capped at around 6 marks. Okay, so make sure now you write another paragraph from the perspective that judge is the most important nature of the Almighty. Okay, good luck with your revision. Off you go.